In the world of K-pop, stars can rise to absolutely incredible heights. We're talking about global icons, worshipped by millions. The whole industry is this finely tuned machine that just creates legends. But, and this is a big but, it's also a world of insane pressure, where just one wrong move can send an entire career spiraling. So today, we are diving deep into the really complex, decade-long story of Jessica Chung. She was once the famous ice princess of a legendary group, but her career has taken a path that I don't think anyone, least of all her fans, could have ever predicted.
And that's really the big question, isn't it? The one that's followed her for over a decade now. How does someone who seemingly had it all, unbelievable fame, millions of adoring fans, and a key spot in what was arguably the most successful girl group of all time, how does that person end up tangled in this complicated web of international legal battles and just recurring controversies? It's a story about ambition, it's about conflict, and it's definitely about consequences. And to really get what's happening now, we have to start with the most recent and maybe the most shocking headline of them all. Okay, let's just get right into the thick of it. The latest chapter in this whole saga isn't about a new song or a fashion collection. Nope. It's about a massive lawsuit in China. And look, this isn't just some legal footnote in her story. This is a verdict that brings years of simmering problems, both financial and professional, to this dramatic boiling point. It honestly threatens the very foundation of this whole second act of her career that she's been trying to build.
So just recently, this news broke out of China, and it sent some serious ripples for the industry. In November 2024, a court delivered its verdict, and, well, it did not go in her favor. This isn't just some random dispute. For a lot of people watching, this feels like the culmination of a very long and very complicated relationship she's had with the Chinese market. A market that, let's be real, she has been relying on for her career's survival.
So, what was this whole thing about? Well, the heart of the lawsuit is an accusation of what's known in Vietnamese slang as bong show, which pretty much just means show skipping. And the claim is brutally simple. She was allegedly paid a ton of money for an appearance, she didn't show up, and the money was never returned. In an industry that is built entirely on reputation and reliability, that is one of the most serious charges you can possibly level against an artist's professionalism. And the amount of money we're talking about here, it is just staggering. The court ordered her to pay 13.1 million Chinese yuan. Now, to put that into perspective for you, that's over 1.8 million US dollars. We are not talking about a small fine or, a slap on the wrist. This is a massive financial blow. It's the kind of sum that can cripple a business and seriously damage an artist's financial standing. And this slide really shows you where that huge number comes from. The court broke it down very clearly. So first, you've got the 10 million yuan for the original performance fee, the money she was allegedly paid and then kept. Then you've got an extra 3 million as a penalty for breaking the contract, basically a punishment for the damages caused. And then finally, 100,000 for legal costs. Every single piece of that tells the story of a business deal that went very wrong. But, of course, there are always two sides to every story. And shortly after this all went public, her management company, Corridel Entertainment, they put out this really firm denial on Weibo, which is China's biggest social media platform. They called the accusations completely fabricated, a malicious violation of her honor, and they vowed to fight back and appeal the whole thing. So, while the verdict has been reached, it sounds like this particular legal battle might not be over just yet. All of this recent turmoil, the courtrooms, the contracts, the lawsuits, it feels like a completely different universe from where she started. And to really get the scale of her current situation and why her story is so compelling, we have to rewind the clock. We have to go back to her golden era, a time when she wasn't a litigant, but was basically K-pop royalty. All right, so let's look at how this all began. Back in 2007, Jessica debuted as a member of Girls' Generation, or SNSD, under the absolute powerhouse label SM Entertainment. And they weren't just any group, they became one of the defining acts of K-pop's second generation, that incredible explosive period of global growth. And inside the supergroup, Jessica created this really unique identity for herself. With her distinct voice, her amazing fashion sense, and this cool, almost aloof vibe, she was nicknamed the Ice Princess. And it was this brilliant persona that made her a crucial fan attractor. She was the one who drew countless new people into the fandom. For 7 straight years, their reign seemed completely unstoppable. They were known as the nation's girl group, a true cultural phenomenon. But then, in the fall of 2014, one single event just fractured the group and sent shockwaves not just through the fandom, but through the entire industry. This This was the moment that set her on a completely different and way more turbulent path. At the very heart of the conflict was this classic clash of priorities. I mean, look at this. On one side, you have the grueling, all-consuming machine of a top-tier K-pop group. That means insane, synchronized schedules with 8 other members, constant commitments, and every single decision is managed by this powerful company. But then on the other side, you have her new passion project, Blanc and Eclair, a fashion brand she co-founded. This wasn't just a side hobby. It was a serious, personal business venture managed totally outside of the company's control. These two worlds, they were just on an inevitable collision course. And then the bombshell dropped. In the early hours of September 30th, 2014, Jessica posted this message to her personal Weibo account. It told millions of absolutely shocked fans that she was being forced to leave the group completely against her will. The statement was so direct, so raw and emotional, and it immediately framed the entire narrative as a betrayal. I mean, for fans who saw these 9 members as this unbreakable family, it was just a devastating and totally confusing moment. Of course, SM Entertainment very quickly released their own statement confirming she was out of the group. Now, their version of events was way less emotional and a lot more, well, corporate. They basically said that after trying to find a compromise, the conflict between her personal business and her duties to the group had just become unmanageable. It made it impossible for her to continue as a member of Girls' Generation. So right away, it became this classic he said, she said situation, playing out on a global stage with millions of fans left trying to figure out which side to believe. So her sudden exit from SNSD wasn't an end, not by a long shot. It was really the beginning of a brand new and honestly a far more complicated chapter. The years that followed saw her launch a solo career, try to build her fashion brand, but this whole new era has been defined just as much by this recurring pattern of business disputes and legal challenges as it has by any of her music. Yeah, this is the crucial part. That recent lawsuit we talked about, it is not an isolated incident. When you look at this timeline, a really clear and pretty worrying pattern starts to emerge. In 2019, she gets sued by Chinese agencies over a contract. In 2021, her brand Blanc & Claire gets hit with a lawsuit over an alleged unpaid $4 million loan. Then in 2023, the brand's flagship store in Seoul is forcibly shut down because of unpaid rent. It's just a series of escalating financial and legal crises that have been following her ever since she went solo. And while all these business problems were happening, her career back in her home country of South Korea basically ground to a complete halt. See, after leaving a major company like SM Entertainment on such bad terms, she was effectively frozen out of the entire Korean broadcast industry for nearly a decade. Think about that. No variety shows, no major music show promotions, no mainstream visibility at all. It was this unspoken but incredibly powerful industry ban that pretty much forced her to look for opportunities somewhere else. But you have to give her credit. She is nothing if not resilient. Essentially barred from the Korean market, she pulled off this really smart and, frankly, necessary career pivot. She signed with a new agency, one run by her boyfriend. She released solo music that her fiercely loyal international fans absolutely ate up, and then she made her big move. In 2022, she joined the cast of Sisters Who Make Waves, a hugely popular reality competition show in China. And that move was a massive success. It reintroduced her to millions of viewers and firmly re-established her stardom in that incredibly lucrative and essential market. Which brings us right back to today, full circle. After the dizzying heights of global stardom, the shocking exit, the decade of constant legal battles, and that strategic career rebirth in China, how do we even begin to look at her legacy? It's a question with no easy answer, one that's complicated by years of controversy and so many conflicting stories. I mean, when you look at the paths everyone took after 2014, the contrast is just so stark. Jessica went all in on building her own brand and a solo career aimed at China. She even published a couple of novels that many fans believe contain her side of the story about her idol life. Meanwhile, her former bandmates like Taeyeon, Yoona, and Sohyun, they flourished inside the Korean system, becoming top-tier solo singers and acclaimed actresses, really cementing the group's lasting influence at home. And through all of this, for over a decade now, there's this powerful, lingering sense of what if, you know? Even now, so many fans, both old and new, still talk about her departure with this really tangible sense of regret. They remember her unique presence, how she was a core part of the group's magic, and they just wonder what could have been for everybody if things had just gone differently. So, in the end, we're left with this fundamental question. Is Jessica Jung a cautionary tale? Is she a fallen star whose incredible talent is always going to be overshadowed by a legacy of lawsuits and controversy? Or is she a resilient, if definitely embattled entrepreneur who, when she was faced with an impossible situation, just refused to fade away and courageously forged her own path, for better or for worse? The final verdict on her legacy, it seems, is still being written.